one. Now we probably covered pretty much most of the slides. This was the most boring one. I apologize for that. Now it will get a lot better. Can you all see it still? Yeah. So, right. So you select with your CSS. You select HTML elements, and you can like the rules. The CSS that you write, they can target multiple HTML elements, right? So if you write styles for a button with the class selector, then it will target all of your HTML elements that have that class, right? That's also clear, right? Good. And the same way as one CSS line is applicable for multiple HTML elements, one CSS file can be used in multiple HTML files. So if you link them up to multiple HTML files, they can be reused. Do you understand that? And can you give an example of how you would use that?
Can you give an example?
Yeah.
Yes, you can just, for example, if you have like article HTML.
Yeah.
And you have designed like one CSS file, so you can do the same. So you can give all your articles, web pages, same style.
Yeah, right. Also, for example, if I try to new window, yeah. So if I open a folder here. Just open this. So let's say that, as always, I have my index HTML. That's my main HTML file, right? Then let's say I have another one that's called about, if I can spell it. And then maybe I have another one that's called contact.html. So these are all my different pages within the same website, right? And then, for example, if I have this main CSS file, where I would say all H1s should be font size 36, and my body should always be background light blue or something. Oh. Then this would be useful for me to be able to be added to all of my HTML files, right? So that the body is always the same color and the H1s are always this. And then maybe I also have a font family which should be the same always, like that, for example, that one, always, right? I want all my web pages to look the same, sort of. Then it would be very smart for me to be able to link. Yeah. Should we try to do that? Yeah. So if I have my index HTML, do you remember what I need in the file?
You should start first HTML.
Yeah. So at first I need the doc type, right? That specifies what version of HTML I'm using. This one means I'm using HTML5. And then what element do I have in there? Yeah.
So when we read, sometimes it requires you language in the HTML.
Yeah.
The header first, and then you can write the link.
So this would be like DK, something like that, or English. Yeah, that would be on the HTML, right? Not on the body. I can't actually remember.
Yeah.
Right. And then what do I have in the HTML?
Header.
Which one? Head or header?
Head.
What's the difference between the two?
Head is just like the title for the web page, where it's like the user will not see it. The header is like the first part. If you divide your web page, it's the header from up, the footer from down, and you have the body inside.
Yeah, cool. Well, the body, you mean?
No, I'm sorry, like just the body of the web page.
Okay, go
But
on.
it's all called body.
Right.
Yeah.
The body tags.
Oh, okay, now I blew it.
Nonsense.
Yes.
So what do I have after the head?
Body.
The body. Right. And then in here. So
You have the title.
yeah. And what is that used for?
It's just to recognize
The browser.
your web page name.
Okay, so this could be called my CV, for example.
Yeah. Because this is for the programming or the person who write the code.
Yeah.
The user will not see it.
Will the user see this
No.
title?
Yeah,
No.
the tab action. What do you call it? Browser stuff.
So do you know where this text comes from? These all of this that you can see up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It comes from title.
It's title.
So that's it. Will not be you will not be able to see it on your website, but you will be able to see it on the tab. So for example, if I try to open this file in my browser, Chrome, then you can see that it will say my CV
Okay.
up there. So that's the only sort of visible thing within the head. Okay.
And now
So
you can write the link after the title.
yeah.
You can link
Mm-hmm.
and.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I cheated now. But so what does this part mean?
It's like it's a reference to CSS file.
Yeah. So I'm telling this file that I'm trying to link a CSS file right now. And then
SSF file. But we have to rename the we have to name CSS.
yeah.
Main.css.
Is it name?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Second,
but you can call it whatever you want to. It's just important that we are calling the correct one. And then in Visual Studio, you can actually, if you hold on Mac the command or on Windows the control down, and then you hover with your mouse. You don't click, you just hover. Then you can see that if it's a file that you can navigate to, or if it's a definition you can navigate to, then the cursor will be this pointing one, right? So if I click on it, then it will actually open my CSS file. In that way, I know that it is correctly linked up. It can find that file. So that's a really nice feature of Visual Code, and it can even do some more. If I do Control space, then it will actually show all the files and all the folders within my project. So I can also see that there's a CSS file, so I can link to it just by clicking on it. That's also a really nice feature of Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now maybe I should write an H1 to see that my CSS file is working right. So if I open the file in here, then you see that it has gotten the font family and the body has gotten the background, right, like we specified it. So that's great. So let's say that now we're just gonna do it a little faster, and we say hello world. Let's say this is my main, or this is my home page, right? Then we copy this and paste it into contact, and here we can say contact my CV. This is my contact page, and the same here with about. Let's see, about. This is my about page. So if right now I'm on the index HTML. Do you know how I can look at for example, the about page?
Yeah.
How can I look at it in my browser? what would you do if you wanted to see the about in your browser?
Right click. Now you can get into about first. Is it about? About that HTML?
In here?
Yeah.
Well, you can see that because it's a local file, so it's actually showing where the file is on my own local computer. So you can see that this is my user, this is the folder, and then another folder within that, another folder, and then the file. So if I want to open the about HTML, now I have the index HTML open. So if I want the about HTML, what would I need to change in the URL?
You can just write about index.
Yeah, let's see if that works. Yeah, I can. That's great. So in that way, I can navigate to my different files within this path, within this folder.
Yeah.
But it would probably be a little smarter if I could navigate without having to change the URL myself, but I could maybe with the navigation. Should we try to do that very quickly?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask about.
Yeah. So if I want to very quickly make a navigation, the easiest way to do it would be to create a navigation HTML tag, and then in there I could create a UL with an LI with an anchor inside, but I'm not going to because it's too much for now. I'm just gonna create 3 anchors, and then I can call this home. That will be my index file, and then I can call the next one about, and the last one contact. So do you know how I can link to home from here? What would I write in the href?
Index.html.
Index. Oh, I actually get some autocomplete there.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So about there, what about there?
About that.
Mm-hmm. And contact. Okay. So do you know what type of a path this is? What is it called? Well, also internal. Is it internal? Well, it's within the project, but it's yeah, not completely internal. But what I was asking, do you know if it's a relative or an absolute path? I've kind of covered it this morning with you guys.
It should be relative.
Yeah.
It's absolute.
Yeah. So the difference between relative and absolute is this is absolute, right? So I'm specifying from my local computer. I'm giving it the whole path, right? If I were to write this one, right? That is HTTPS www.google.com. That's also an absolute path. Absolute means that it's the whole path. It's not relative to something. So relative path means that this is actually relative to the folder where I'm currently in. So if I look in my Finder, then this is the folder that I'm in, right? I'm in the exercise folder, and I have these 4 files. So if I just write index.html, then it's going to search for that file in here. If I had another folder that was called image, for example, and I had an image there, then if I wanted to get to that image, right? It was called. Just gonna create a file very quickly. So image.jpg. It doesn't work. It's not a real image, but it doesn't really matter. So if I wanted that image, then writing image.jpg will not work because it will look for image.jpg within the exercise folder, and it does not exist, right? So then what would I need to do to find the image? Do you know?
So add the image folder name. And then slash.
Yeah. Oh, and then it actually suggests it, so it must be correct. And if I click, then it will actually open the correct file. So this is also a relative path, but it's nested, right? This is just using the current folder that I'm in. And then if I wanted the absolute path, then it would be then it would be like this. Then that's the absolute path, right? That will also find the file actually. But this will only work on my own computer. So using the relative path it makes more sense because then it can find it from within the project.
I was reading something about you can put point and the name of the file. It would search within the server. Is it true like that?
Point slash just means the same folder. It's the same as writing that.
Yeah.
Right, point slash. It's within the current folder.
But what about point?
Point.
That goes back one folder.
Yeah, then goes up. So for example, if you are in the if you had an HTML file in there and you wanted to link to the index, then you would write point slash index HTML, because then it goes a folder up.
Okay. And you can nest that. You can do like point slash point slash point slash, and it'll keep going back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back up in folders.
So for example here, if I go out, then you can see that I have all these different folders, right? So if I'm trying to link to something from week 1, I would not do that in this case. But if I wanted to link to this file, for example, from the index, then if I go point slash, then I'm in the week 2 folder. If I go, and then if I go point slash, then I'm in this folder, which is even more up, and then I can write week 1 slash presentation slash CSS PBTX. Then it will find the file. So that's smart if you want to like navigate into another folder, which is like the cousin of the current folder you are in.
But it's like not usable this way. It's better just put all files in the same folder.
Well, it depends.
Yeah. Okay.
For your purposes, yes, you would put everything that's related in the same folder.
Even if you just make at least copy from that folder and just put it there.
Yeah, but like you would, for example, if you have some images, it's smart to create a folder for them, right? Or if you have something that's very similar, you would probably create a folder for them. So you don't have 20 or 30 files you need to look at within the same folder.
And what if you have, like, for example, if you have a server and you want to link something from the server? It's the same way. You should like because that's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah.
That
from what server?
Like in the same domain. Like for example, if you are in the same company and you have the server, and you have like a couple of computers, or you want to create a website for this domain, this area, and you want to link something for the server folder in the server, like a picture or something.
Yeah.
So it depends where the HTML file is hosted. If it's on the same server, it's the same computer, and as the file that you're trying to link to, then yeah, you can use a relative path, / or whatever.
Okay.
If it's a different server entirely, then you have to use an absolute path.
Okay.
It's a different computer, effectively. The server is just a computer in the cloud. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
Cool, but now we have our navigation, right? So so if I refresh the index.html, then you can see that I've gotten this super nice navigation up there. So if I click on About, then it will navigate to About HTML. Can you see that the navigation has disappeared?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain me why?
Because you have another web page.
Oh yeah, so it's because I'm missing the navigation, right? So if I want the navigation on all my pages, then I need to add the navigation to all my pages. So in that way, if I refresh, then I can navigate between my pages now. That's pretty neat. And all of them have this background and the same font size and font family. So that's what this slide means, is that the same CSS file can be used for multiple HTML files. And one HTML file or one HTML element can also take CSS rules from multiple things. We have kind of covered this. So if you select a paragraph with the HTML element tag, and then you also select it with a class, then it will get styles from both, and specificity and order will win out. That was the example with the para, right, before. You guys remember that? Yeah? So Descendant Selectors, we've kind of covered this. It's just the space between. Yeah. And then the child combinator is when you, yeah. Oh, so they're kind of doing the same here. Ah, so they had a better example. They had an OL nested. Yeah. Then it doesn't mess it up. Yeah. I should have done that. Yeah. Right. Okay, so then we have this other pair of selectors. One is the it's some very developer lingo words: adjacent sibling combinator and the general sibling combinator. So this one I'm kind of using too much time, so I'm just going to explain quickly. But so the difference between the two is that if you use the adjacent sibling combinator, which is the plus sign, so space plus space between two selectors, then it will select the next one. So okay, it's better if I create a code then. So let's say that I have a bunch of paragraphs. I think it's called like lorem ipsum. So I have 3 paragraphs, right? And if I write that I want I take the adjacent sibling selector. So I say I want this one to be blue. Then it's going to take. Well, do you understand what? No, my problem. Okay. So what it does is it's going to find a paragraph, and it's going to, that's that one, and then it's going to find the next paragraph after it. So that's the second one, and we'll color it blue. And then it will go like through all of your HTML. So then it will find a paragraph and look if there is a paragraph after it. And there is one, so it will also color that one blue. Do you understand? So the same rule is being applied twice, because all 3 are paragraphs.
So this the first one is not applied.
So the first one is not applied because I only want to apply this to paragraphs that come after a paragraph. Yeah? So for example, if I had a div in here, would that work? No. Well, it doesn't work with this one anymore. Yeah. And why is that?
Because before there's no paragraph.
Yeah, exactly. So this plus one, it will only take it will look at the next sibling and look at it if it's the correct one. If it isn't, then it will go, like it will continue reading your code. So now the only one that matches that it's a paragraph after another paragraph is the last one.
But do we use div for paragraph like that? This way? How you use it?
No, it's just an example.
Ah, okay.
Just an example. This could also be an H2.
Yeah.
This could also it could be whatever. It's just to show you how this one works.
My question is like, should be like B with B, like, or it can be like B with div or B with something.
It can be like a class selector, main, title plus P,
Okay.
It can be P last child. It can be all sorts of different things. It can be it's always when I'm explaining stuff. Maybe I have forgotten to say that, but we are using the simplest examples. This can always be whatever, right?
Okay. It's just like my question was like, should be like two similar selector, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter
Okay.
at all, at all. And it would probably make more sense to do something like this, that the paragraph that comes after your main title should be maybe font size a bit bigger than the rest of your paragraphs, because it will probably be like an intro paragraph. You know what I mean? So if this was like the class main title, then I want this paragraph to be a bit bigger because that's my intro paragraph.
Okay.
So something like this could probably make sense to have on your website. Do you understand? Yeah. So that was the adjacent sibling. So adjacent means that it comes directly after, right after, and then the general sibling combinator or selector is the one with the wave. So if I write a wave in here instead, then you see that something happened. Now all of these have gotten big. Just gonna say color blue, because that's a bit easier to see. So now both of them are blue. Why is that?
Like, select everything after this one.
Yeah.
It's not instead that it shows something before.
Yeah. So if I have 3 paragraphs after it, right? Then all of them will be blue, because this one means if there is another paragraph, and I could have a div in here with something, again just an example, and they will still be blue, and that's because I'm selecting all the siblings that come after the first selector, which is this one.
No matter if it's direct or not direct.
No matter if it's what?
It's coming direct after the selection. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No matter if it's direct or not, it's general. So it's all paragraphs that come after this within the same div. So to give you another example, if it was like, actually maybe let's do something more semantic. So if this was my main, and then I had a footer with some paragraphs, and then cleaned up a bit up. So you see that the last paragraph is not selected. Can you explain me why that is? I mean, it is a paragraph that comes after the main title, right? Do you know why? Is it weird? Do you find it weird, or is it something you expected?
No, it's weird.
It's weird?
Yeah, because like footer is like a block selection
Mm-hmm.
and also div.
Mm-hmm.
Because div also like maybe it's like it's work until the like within one block it's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very, very good guess. So the way both this and actually also the plus one works, so both of these, they're called sibling selectors, right? So it's not looking at cousins. They need to have the same parent, all of them.
Yeah.
So in this way, all of them have the parent main, both main title and these paragraphs. Down here, it has another parent, the footer, so it will not turn blue. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Cool. Okay, have you ever worked with these pseudo classes? link, visited, hover, active. Do you know how you use them?
I work with this hover.
Yeah?
I was making something in my CV, but I think it's like too early to go through this.
Okay.
It just hover when you like pass the mouse over something, over the link or over a picture.
Mm-hmm.
You can design something for it.
Okay.
Like background a little bit, highlight.
So it was not getting the margin top because it's an inline element. So I made this block. So if I have this link, right, and if I give it a color purple and text dash, I don't want it to have the underline, so I'm just gonna say text decoration none, and I'm gonna give it red instead. Okay, so that's my link, right? How would I use these pseudo classes? Does any of you know these ones? Where would they go? Here's an example, right? So,
If you write A.
Yeah. So if I write hover,
Yes.
for example.
And then you like background blue. So if you pass the mouse now over it, become.
Yeah. So so these, whenever there is a column between your selector and your pseudo class, well, whenever there is this, it means it's a pseudo class. So there are different types. There are state pseudo classes. So for example, the A has a hover state. It has a link state, which is basically just the default one. It's always a link. So that will happen by default. Then it also has a visited state. When do you think that will happen?
Like after you click on that link.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't work right now because it's not leading anywhere. But yeah. So if you have clicked on that link and then you go back to the page where you came from, then the link has been visited. Yeah. Exactly. And then there's another one called active. When do you think active is? When is it active?
Like you are already open that web page?
No, that's visited.
Yeah.
Right? So active is actually while you are clicking it.
Okay.
So if you just tap, then it's gonna happen very fast. But so if I hold my mouse down, then it's active right now. Yeah. So these are some. They are called pseudo class selectors. There are also some pseudo classes that are not states, but structural pseudo classes. So for example, if I have paragraphs, if I have 3 of them, I have 3 paragraphs, right? And then, so if I said I only want the first one to be blue, what would you do? How would you select only the first one?
You should add a class.
Yeah, I could do that. What if I don't want to add the class? Well, CSS has a way of doing that. So there is this pseudo selector. There are 2 actually. One of them is called first child. So what this is going to do, if I just say color blue. Okay. So what this is going to do is whenever a paragraph is the first child within a container. So maybe this is better if I do this the same way again. I have a main, and then I have a footer. And I'm just gonna put a div in here, separating the 2.
Yeah. So it's just the first child from each block.
Yeah, exactly. So so first child is the first child within the container. And the container here is footer. What is the container here? The main, yeah, exactly. So now it's selecting all the first children. And if, well, when I'm selecting with an HTML selector, it doesn't really make a difference. But if I was saying that these were, I don't know, text, all of them was text, right? They all had this class. So I was actually selecting the text instead of the HTML element. Then you see it's the first whatever it can be. It can be a P, it can be something else with the class text that is a first child. So for example, if the first one was instead of a P, it was, I don't know, a div, right? It should not happen. It will still work because I'm not selecting the paragraph. I'm selecting the class, right? So there's another one that's called first of type. In that case, you can see that something is very different now. Two of them within the main.
Yeah, because the first one is div and the other is paragraph.
Yeah, so now it's, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean that the first one is like you don't write paragraph, it's just a div.
Yeah.
And the second one, like the first one from each selector.
Yeah.
It's choosing.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's gonna say, okay, I'm gonna look for all of the classes or all of the HTML elements that have the class text. And now I'm gonna say if they are the first of their type. So I have this div here, it has the class text. Is this the first div in the main? Yeah, then I'm gonna color it blue. Now it goes longer down and it's looking at, okay, so I have this HTML element, it has the class text, yes, and it's the first of its type, there are no other paragraphs before, then I'm gonna color it blue. Then I continue down, okay, so is this an HTML element with the class text? Yes, it is. Is this the first of its type? No. Then I'm gonna skip it. So if, for example, if I change this to an H3, what do you think will happen?
It will be true.
Why?
Because the first, there's no before that.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So that's the big difference between first of type and first child. First child is, it doesn't matter what HTML element it is, it has to be the first one within the container. First of type, it might not be the first child, it's just the first of its type. Cool. Yeah. Lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah.